Okay, this is some hints and tips on installing the Cascade freestanding tub filler. First of all, we check that we have the correct rough in the floor. It should be like this with a grey cap on the top. And inside we see a flange and a blank there. I'll take this off just to show, but normally this would stay on. We take this flange off by unscrewing those 4 screws there, and this goes for both of the Cascade models. There's 2 different models. You can take this flange off, and it's not used for the Cascade, it's only used for the Sapphire, so this can be taken off and discarded. And then we take the blank cover off and the blank plugs out. You can use a little screw in there to help pull those out. And then we check that the core is lined up so that the hot side, where it has a red dot, is facing towards the bathtub. So the 2 different models of Cascade tub filler, the current model, the measurements from the bottom of the flange to the end of the tubes here, the hot and cold tubes, is 1 3/8 inches. Both the tub fillers are identical except for this measurement. The previous model was just 1 1/16". It's a shorter one. So when we're fitting up for the longer model here, we use the Cascade rough flange. It looks very similar to the flange that came out of the rough, but you'll notice a couple of differences. There's no leveling plugs in here, and these holes are slightly different centers to these, and these bolts must stay in place because the heads of them hold the inner core in place when it's installed. So it holds the inner core in place there. So we can screw this down using the bolts in the slots here, and to get it to the right place, usually like that. And then we use the Cascade body flange, and we'll screw this, fix this onto the bottom of the body. It's worth noting that on this curved side here, you won't be able to access this bolt unless you put it in first. So put that 1 bolt in first, and then secure it into there, and then this whole arrangement goes into the rough, and you secure the 2 flanges together. For the model with the shorter tubes on here, we use a transition plate which looks like this. It just has these slotted holes in it. And say the tubes are shorter, so you don't need 2 plates, just the 1. And this can be secured directly onto the bottom of the tub filler, like so. And you'll find on this one, you're using the slots now to secure this into the rough, and you'll only be able to use 2 of the slots, but it gives you a very good, strong, stable fixing, so that's perfectly acceptable there. So one thing I should have mentioned is, before you put these flanges on here, make sure you put slip the escutcheon on. Otherwise you have to take all this back off again. And the one thing to note about this is, if the Cascade flange is used, which is this flange here, inside here, if this Cascade flange is used directly onto the body here, in other words, you use these 4 holes to screw it onto the bottom of the body, what will happen is this inner core inside the rough will rise under pressure. Then the hot and cold will be allowed to mix, and the user won't be able to get hot water on the tub filler, and it could affect other love faucets in the house too. And likewise, if you're using both of the flanges and you don't leave those installed, again the flange will rise.